Gigi Hangach, welcome to Rockbrat Radio.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Now, I've been a rock fan for 30-odd years, and I've printed fanzines. At one time, I ran a small record label. So when I decided to start an online radio show, I went through my record collection to get some ideas about who I'd like to interview, musicians from bands I've long admired, and you are one of them. It's really a thrill to talk to you today.
Oh, stop.
You know,
that's nice.
The last time I saw you was in London around March of 1994 at the Shepherd's Bush Empire.
I remember that place.
Yeah, you threw your set list into the crowd and it hit me straight on the front of the head.
You did not.
And I still have that, by the way.
Do you really?
Yes, I do. I keep all.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's great.
I collect rock memorabilia. So you currently live in Las Vegas, correct?
Yeah, I do. I don't like it.
You don't like it? I visited there as a tourist in the mid-90s, but what's it like being a resident?
It's horrible. I hate it here so much. Oh, my God, I hate it. I should have had my head examined. But, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to take a chance, take chances, It's like you got to take chances in life, right?
Sure.
Unfortunately, this one backfired. It's really miserable here.
Well, you have cold.
It's hot. It's so freaking hot here.
But not at the moment.
It's like, no, not today. No. And the summers, though, are unbearable. I don't know. You guys probably are pretty hot there, too, though, huh?
Yeah, we have scorching hot summers as well.
Like 120 degrees?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you know what it's like.
It's miserable.
It is. Dry, miserable, dirty. Oh, yeah. But that's like, don't want to talk about depressing things.
So you spend your time working for animal rights at the moment. That's what I read online. Is that correct? Can you tell me about that?
Just like, I try. There's not a lot of opportunities in Las Vegas, really, believe it or not. I am shocked how few opportunities there are to do, good for animals here. And it's like, currently I'm just a colony caretaker. I take care of a large group of feral cats that are all spayed and neutered and vaccinated and everything. And I just volunteer where I can, where I'm needed, and try to, see a little frightened dog on the street or something like that. I'll pick them up. Try to. They're on their way. Just like I'll try and take care of things, It's like the people just ignore.
That's very admirable. I hope this doesn't sound too direct, but are you finished with rock and roll?
Actually, I kind of thought maybe I was, for a while. But I'm like looking to get back in, It's like, just for fun, nothing really majorly serious or anything like that, But it's really, really hard here. There's not nearly enough opportunities like if I still lived in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there'd be way more. And it's like here, it's like, please put me into bands. You know what I mean? It's like, there's like nothing going on. It's like, and I don't want to like all, I don't want to be like all in some young up and coming band. I don't want. This is, I mean, come on. I'm past that right now.
Sure.
And so there's like it is a limited range of things I can like, look into, but it seems like everybody else is doing it. Come on.
So what kind of thing would you be looking for to do there? Like a rock band playing originals, or maybe playing with another singer-songwriter, or?
I would, it's like, Linda's been having a lot of fun with her Iron Maiden's gig. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So it's like, I'd be up for a cool tribute or something like that, or just some maybe do some covers that nobody does. Really cool, like, I don't know, older ones, classic ones, or whatever. The ones that aren't done to death,
Well, obscure covers are the best because
yeah, that's
you get young.
AC/DC. I'm going to scream. It's like, oh my God, everybody's doing AC/DC. Even the radio stations, it's like way overdone. And I'm like, oh, come on. I know they did more songs than that. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? They don't get played that much here in Australia. AC/DC.
Really?
Yeah.
I brought that up and I didn't even realize that they were Australians. It's like, I just remember going, God, I was listening to the radio the other day and I said to myself, You know, if I wanted to listen to an AC/DC album, I would have put one on. I swear they put an AC/DC song on every hour.
Really?
It was insane. Yeah,
Well, I think after America really took to Back in Black, didn't it? And that's what they mostly play, that album?
Yeah, it seems to be a lot. Yeah, and the bouncing balls. They love that one. My balls are bouncing. Oh God.
Okay, that's going back a few years. That one, 75. But actually, let's drift back a bit. I hope you don't mind. Were you born and raised in Akron?
Cleveland area.
Cleveland area. Okay. How did you get into rock and roll? Did you have siblings into rock and roll?
Yeah, I was the oldest. So, but yeah, it was actually my mom. She would go out shopping or whatever, and she would just see an interesting album cover and bring it home, just because she liked the way it looked.
Man,
and listen to it, it's like, oh, yay or nay, it's like, oh, she pretty much was right on, when she picked them. I mean, she got me my first Queen album, my first Grand Funk Railroad album, and it's like, I think my aunt gave me my first Black Sabbath album, but it was like, oh, then it was just Black Sabbath all the time.
They're very hip relatives. My relatives weren't that clued on, I'm afraid.
I don't know, Mom, she was like, oh, she would see like some, cool looking album cover, or just like, oh, some cute guy on the album cover or whatever, and she'd bring it home. I was, that looks interesting here.
So, what about yourself? What was the first album you purchased?
It was Black Sabbath, Masters of Reality. First one I went to, I walked all the way down to the store. And it was like, I saved up enough money finally, and so I walked all the way down there, and I was like, oh, couldn't wait. My sister, oh my God, she wanted to kill me because I just listened to Black Sabbath over and over and over and over. And it's like when I only had 2 albums, it was like probably pretty annoying. But
well, you what do you think about Ozzy and the way he's become in the last 15 years?
He's not the Ozzy of days gone by.
Sure.
It's like I quit listening to Black Sabbath pretty much after Sabotage. Pretty much at Sabotage. I didn't even buy Sabotage, and I definitely quit listening. And then went to some of the stuff like Queen.
What about the Dio albums with Ronnie James as the front man?
No, I never got into. I respect Ronnie James Dio as a singer because I always thought he was amazing. Sure. But for some reason, I don't know. Maybe it was the drama with the rainbows and the unicorns or whatever. It's like in the dragons and whatever. I just didn't get into that stuff.
The funny thing is, a lot of sorry, I missed that.
But then again, I listened to Queen, and they had like Ogre Battle, Fairy Feathers, Master Stroke, and stuff like that. It's like, so I don't know. I don't know why like Dio wasn't like a bigger influence or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, the funny thing is with those reality shows, I've met younger people over the years, and they will see Ozzy going to a rehearsal studio, and they then it clicks that he's actually a musician. They have no concept of who he is.
Oh, it's like
what was the first band you saw live?
Queen.
Queen?
Yep, they were. It was their first U.S. headlining tour, and Kansas opened. Believe it or not, Kansas.
Do you think Queen should still persist with Paul Rodgers?
No. Paul Rodgers is a totally different kind of singer. Totally different. It's like and I watched the Freddie Mercury tribute, and the only one who did it justice, it's sad to say, was George Michael. He's the only one that did it justice. Everybody else was like, oh, it just didn't sound good. I didn't think, anyhow.
I know from being a fan and Blue fan that you were a massive Robin Zander fan.
Yeah.
What's your favorite album?
Oh God, that's harder. I love the first one because it's real heavy and it's hard. It's hard to be than most of them. And I love Dream Police, Heaven Tonight. I love
Dream Police. Dream Police has got Gonna Raise Hell on it, and you can't go wrong with that, can you?
I know. That's like some of the best screams in rock, I think, on the Gonna Raise Hell. And he's like a really short, a little guy, It's like, how does all that sound come out of him? Oh, my God. He's amazing. Did
you see them doing the Sgt. Pepper thing in Vegas recently?
No, I didn't, because, it's like really expensive. It was really, really expensive. And I It's like I don't have a lot of connects out here. You know, it's like so it's like I couldn't get in for free.
Well, I think that Cheap Trick will go down as one of the most complete rock and roll bands. They don't get the accolades I think they deserve.
Somebody, actually, it was somebody who from Great Britain, who was I can't remember what show he went to, if it was the Shepherd's Bush or which one, but he sent me the new Cheap Trick CD, so I've been listening to that. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Typical Cheap Trick.
From memory, that other show was at the Camden Underworld because I was there. I was living in London at the time, but I'll bore you about that later on. So, I read that you were in a band with Janie Lane from Warrant.
Yeah, you know, that kind of like really blown up more than it was. You know,
that's the media and the internet, isn't it?
I know. It's like, oh wow, they're just like, oh, I can't. I mean, I just mentioned it one time that we were going to like maybe get something going, and then we were singing in the car on the way to it was far to get to the rehearsal. Because Janie didn't even know, well, John didn't even know where he was going at that point. You know, it was like all both knew. It was new to both of us. So, yeah, that was like, and we was like doing Iron Maiden songs, in fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I remember my brother was with me, and he's like, oh, he's just like sitting there. He's like, oh, just because I didn't want to go by myself.
So without covering all your music history, how did you go about moving to LA? Did you shift to California to try your luck in the music scene? What happened there? Yeah,
it's like in fact I waited way too long. You know, it's like most people do it way sooner than I did. It took me forever to get out of Ohio. It seems like, you know, it's like, but yeah, it's like my sister moved out here with her husband, and he was like doing well, doing just like when computer programmers were really, you know, making a lot of money and stuff. So I had a place to go when I came out here. So I took the opportunity when it came. You know, it's like, oh, I'm never going to be here again. I'm sure, you know, like it's here right now. So I'm just going to go. It was sad though.
So were you in any bands before you joined Fan and Blue?
In LA?
Yeah.
Or in LA, not so much. I remember trying just like some things that were just, you know, you just your heart's not in it. You know, it's not right. You know, it's like you're not into it. You just do it because you think you should. You know, blah blah blah, whatever. Because you know, and it gets you out there. You know, it's like it keeps you doing stuff. You know, but it was just like, yeah. I remember the whole story. You know, goes that you know Nikki and Michelle knew this guy named Wolfie, and I happened to meet Wolfie at this club one night, and he was going, oh, I know the perfect girls for you, and he hooked us up, and then that was it. So
that was around 87, 88?
I'm thinking, yeah-ish. Let me see, because like let me see. Yeah, because we did the Shrapnel in 89. I came out in 89, so yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You know, I never visited clubs like the Troubadour and the Whiskey and the Coconut Teaser and the Roxy until I think I went there in late 92, but by then I think the whole scene was pretty much on its last legs.
Oh, God, oh my God.
You must have
so much fun back in the day.
Yeah, you must have great memories of playing those clubs.
Oh, my God, playing the clubs. Are you kidding? Just handing out flyers on the strip was fun.
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh, you can make a night of that. It was like, oh, and then they outlawed, passing out flyers. Bands couldn't pass out flyers, and the strip died. The day the strip died, it was a sad day. It was never the same again. It really wasn't. But, God, they used to have helicopters out and trying to, like, herd people away from the rainbow and stuff like that at 3 o'clock. It was amazing. It was so much fun. Parties.
It's
you could go out and not spend a dime and get drunk. Swear to God.
But it's a completely different era. I mean, if you explain that to, say, a 20-year-old now in a band having to hand out flyers, they just wouldn't get that.
No, but it's like, I wouldn't have changed it for anything.
Oh, sure.
It was so much fun.
I think that with young bands nowadays, it's just instant. You know, they get together for a week and then they want to go on tour Europe or wherever else.
Oh, yeah,
it's just instant.
Yeah. Well, put something on the internet. It's like you don't really have to play live. So it's like it can be perfect because you just making it perfect in your little basement studio. You know what I mean? They never play together. They don't know.
This is half the problem. I think the internet has just clogged the whole scene with so many bands, and it's really hard to distinguish good from bad.
it's just like overkill, you know. It's like I don't know any. Pretty much, I'm not very current on what's good right now. I really am not, because it's like it's just. I'll stick with what I know. You know what I mean?
I think most people, our vintage, are similar to that because it's all been done, and I'm not being cynical, but it has all been done, and our memories are the best ones. I think. I don't think they can improve on a lot of.
I do too. I think that too. It's like, you know, everybody can say what they want to say, but it's like no, nothing was like back in the day. There's only one back in the day. You know what I mean?
That's right. So the band toured Europe in support of that first album. That must have been amazing.
Oh, yeah, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. It was like, first time any of us got to do anything like that. It was amazing.
Had you traveled outside of the West?
No, not like that. Never really traveled anything like to that extent. Maybe Canada.
What about, did Shrapnel Records, I think it was Shrapnel in the US, did they throw any money to tour that album across the States?
Nope. We owe everything to Roadrunner Europe. It was like, thank God for them. And it's like, I was just like, they you know, God, we went over there. I went over there like, I think 4 different times. I did a promotional tour once with Michelle, and the rest, we did tours, you know. It was like, it was so much fun. It was like, oh, thank you for still loving us here.
Well, I guess like Australia, there's still a lot of rock fans here, particularly Spain and Germany, I guess. There's a lot of, they've always been strong rock and roll strongholds.
We didn't get to go to Spain or Italy or anything like that. We just like, we did the, you know, Netherlands and Germany and Belgium and all, you know, that part.
You know, when I've traveled through places like Japan, I've seen both your albums. Did you ever tour Japan?
No, but we had a completely different album cover. I don't know, I guess it was Europe and Japan. But it's like, the Japanese one was like a little different than everybody else's. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, I've got both of those on vinyl. I think there's 2 different album sleeves, isn't there, for that first album?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. There's the Shrapnel and then the Europe.
You've probably been asked this before, but the filming of Why Call It Love in that maximum security prison in Carson City, was that Carson City?
Uh-huh, yeah.
You know what? I look at that sometimes and I think it's a great video. How did that come about, filming that in a prison? It's the real deal, isn't it? That's a real prison.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, and those are real prisoners. We had to be sequestered when they were going through chow lines, you know. It's like they had to go from one building to the other. Huh. We had to be sequestered, and we're like, why? You know, because we're like, they seem so nice, you know. And the guys were like, the people were telling us, you'd be surprised. And we're like, why? What'd that guy do? You know, he's like, he raped and murdered his girlfriend, you know, and stuff like that. What? You're kidding? You know, because they were so nice and normal guys, you know. It's like, we were hanging out with them, yucking it up, and it's like, coming to find out they killed their girlfriend. That prison was used a lot in movies because it's like, I guess really, you know, architecturally pretty for a prison, I guess, you know.
One of my favorite tunes from that first album is Last Shot. Can you tell me anything about that track?
Michelle wrote it.
Uh-huh.
And, no, I don't know. It's like, we used to do this goofy dance to it. And it's like nothing, no extraordinary story attached to it, no. Except for the goofy dance.
Well, why don't we play that song now from Phantom Blue's magnificent debut album of 1989. Here is Last Shot. Phantom Blue there with a song called Last Shot, which still sounds great 20 years after its release. Now, the next album, Built to Perform, was released in 1993 on Geffen Records. It must have been a thrill to get signed to a major label like Geffen, or...
We thought so at first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we thought so at first.
Were there any other major labels interested?
Yeah, that's what was so frustrating, is because there were a few labels. There was like a bidding war, you know, at one point. But you know, it's like we believed Tom Zutaut, you know. It's like you know, everything he told us, you know. So we went with Geffen, and because I think we were swayed too because of the label name, you know what I mean? Because like one of the other labels was Hollywood, you know, so that was like, you know, Disney's startup rock label, you know. It's like they didn't have very many people on the roster at the time. So I think we were kind of swayed by the lure of the Geffen whole thing idea.
I think you made the right decision. But you know what?
Yeah,
I mean, the sound of Built to Perform is different to the first album. Not as technical, but filled with heavy riffs, and you know, hooks aplenty. To quote a cliche, but I think you can definitely look back on that record and be very, very proud.
Oh, I am. I'm extremely proud. It's like Matt Norman was our first choice for producer anyhow. You know, it's like so we were completely, totally happy with that.
Well, he
We had
produced
no
those,
complaints.
as you'd know, he produced those first classic Aussie albums. And,
hmm
I mean, the production is astounding. As soon as you put that on, Built to Perform, I mean, Nothing Good just smacks you in the face, doesn't it? And it's, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into details here, but I was living in London when that album came out, and that I nearly wore the grooves out where we lived on that album. It just stayed on the turntable. Every track was great, and well, the artwork I think for Built to Perform is one of the best images to grace an album cover. I mean,
And I found out
you take one look at it, and
I guess that's the
you know
only
that that's
album cover he ever did.
I'm sorry, what was
I'm
that?
sorry. I guess that's like the only album cover he's ever done.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from what I understand.
Well,
I guess somebody called him a favor.
You look at that album cover and you just know it's a. I mean, that image says attitude, don't f with me, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Well, the track Mother is one of my favourite Fan and Blue tunes, which was included on the My Misery CD single release. And we're going to crank that now just because it's Christmas time and I'm in a Christmas mood. So here is Mother. From the Built to Perform sessions, the track Mother there by Fan and Blue, which was lifted off the My Misery CD single. Are you proud of that track, Mother? It's a great rock song.
Yeah, that was always one of my favorites. And it's like I have to be reminded too that it didn't make the final album, because it was always supposed to. And we liked that one a lot. All of us did.
Well, you know what? I'm not just saying this because you're on the line. If you read some of the things I've written in the past 15 or 20 years, that album is on my all-time top 10 list.
Oh, really?
Yes, it is.
How cool.
I mean, I reviewed that record some time back and I wrote, if you appreciate rock and musicians churning out songs littered with fat, mean riffs and catchy time changes, Built to Perform is for you, which I think is very accurate.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Well, I think that the album was a real breath of fresh air for people like me, rock fans. I didn't want Nirvana and Pearl Jam. That was not my thing. And I think grunge killed off many late rock bands. And I think it's great that Fan and Blue survived and put out a fantastic album.
Yeah, sort of.
Sorry,
survived, I mean.
I also did it. I saw you guys do an in-store with my brother in London, 94. I think it was at a place called Croydon. How's that from my memory, Croydon?
Oh, my God, I remember that.
Yeah, and after you left, I pestered the owner. I said, you got to give me that poster. And I've got it framed. And
now I'm trying to think, because we didn't do that. We didn't do a whole bunch of in-stores.
No, you were on the tour bus and you stopped outside the record store and it was a lot of fun.
I remember the first one we went to, it was, oh my God, they showed us a line of people. We're like, we thought they were kidding. We're like, that's for us? And he's like, oh yeah. It was our very first one. Our first tour, very first in-store. It was like, wow. We couldn't believe these people showed up to see us. Nobody's going to be there.
You can't fool people. I think people have the ultimate say with their wallet and their feet when they like decent rock bands. In my opinion, the sound on that second album, which made that album, was Michelle's guitar work, your vocals, and Linda's powerhouse drumming. I think those components really evident Built to Perform. Finding Linda, what a phenomenal drummer, great double kick.
Yeah. I know. It's like nobody believes it was actually a girl playing, because of it most of the time. You know what I mean?
Did you get tired of the all-girl comparisons?
Yes. It's like,
you must have heard.
Just because we have the same body parts, it's like we got compared to Vixen. You know what I mean? And we're nothing like Vixen, never were. Nothing against that. But I mean, just because we're both female doesn't mean like we're the same. It's like and it's like so now I was reading something online just the other day. Somebody said that we were almost as good as Vixen. I'm like, but you're telling.
So I'm drifting forward here because I know you got to go, and thank you for your time today. Around 97, that Court Live CD, you exited the band?
Oh, yeah.
Was it tough for you to leave?
Yeah, I just think really, I was in it way longer than I should have been because I wasn't happy for a long time, because we were just doing the same songs over and over and over and over. Nothing new was getting done. We weren't progressing, and plus it was a revolving door of musicians, and it was like the core of the band is gone. What are we doing? Come on. And then somebody took over as acting manager, and gave me an ultimatum one day, and I was like, "Oh, you would? Who are you giving me an ultimatum in my band?"
Sure.
And that's when I realized it wasn't my band anymore. You know what I mean?
So do Fan and Blue still exist? I see that the website is updated occasionally.
No, they don't. And I just think, because it's Linda, and they have the controlling hand on about the website, and I just think it's disrespectful to leave that up there after Michelle passed. You know what I mean? Fan and Blue should be the original Fan and Blue, and that's what the site should be dedicated to, not these people that, like Nikki said, who are these people? She's like, sure. I don't recognize, who are these strangers? You know, it's like she didn't recognize anybody. Linda was barely recognizable in those, you know what I mean?
10 years in the one outfit is a long time. You must have some fond memories and highlights. Would you like to share a couple with us?
Okay. I know I've told this story a million times. It's like, but when we first got to Holland, Michelle was like, how do you say, I want my money, I want my money. And so the Dutch, record guy, like telling her, ik ben heil, ik ben heil. And she's like, ik ben heil. And she's like screaming through this like corporate radio, office building, and it's echoing everywhere. And it's like, she went live on the air, over the whole country. And they go, Michelle, we heard you learned some Dutch today. You want to share with us what you learned? She went, ik ben heil, over national radio, and found out later that it meant I'm horny. Not, I want my money.
Well, that is a highlight, a good memory.
It was funny. And as far as playing, it's like, I don't know if it'd be a highlight or just like, it was really just really surreal kind of to be playing the Marquee in London. And that was like, oh, God, did they not have air conditioning or any air ventilation, though? Come on. It was like, the sweatiest gig ever. But it was like kind of like, like I said, you know how many people played on that stage, It was just trippy.
Did you ever do any open air concerts?
We were supposed to end up doing, I think we did one. It was for like the Queen's birthday in Holland or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Queen Beatrice or somebody like that. I don't remember. But I think, yeah. I can't remember if we played it or if we canceled. I can't remember, but I know we were there. I just don't remember if we played it or not.
How do you think Phantom Blue will be remembered?
It surprises me that people do remember. I mean, really. I still read stuff online to this day, and it's like, wow, it's like all touching. It's like, you don't, when you were in it, and you're part of it, and your life hasn't really changed much because of it, Like I'm still, doing a job, stuff like that. You don't think people like, think of you like that. You know what I mean?
Some general questions, and then we'll finish up. Favorite okay. Australian band?
The Vinyls.
Man, what a great answer. What a great answer.
Yeah, you like that one? Good.
What would you have done differently looking back, or would you have done anything differently?
Good question. I don't know. Maybe, I guess looking back, maybe gone with Hollywood instead of Geffen, just to see how it would have turned out.
Uh-huh.
Because, it's like one path or the other, which one. I hope we take the right one. But, we'll just never know. But if I could have done anything different, maybe try the other path.
If you could jump in a time machine and see any band or show from the past, who would that be?
Maybe T-Rex gig, maybe.
That's a fantastic choice. And you know what? We're going to wind up. It's just fantastic to talk to you today. And have a fantastic Christmas, as you say in the United States. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
All the best.
And thanks for having me. This was fun.